The wildest part of the WNBA roster roulette isn't the last woman cut at training camp. It's the handful of stars who almost never even have to sweat that conversation. When front offices start trimming rosters down to 12, there's an invisible line between players living day to day and players whose name never realistically hits the waiver wire, no matter how rough the shooting slump or how loud the off-court drama gets. That divide isn't just about box score production, it's about who sells jerseys, who anchors a franchise's identity, and who's protected by the league's own contract tools and age rules that tilt stability toward a very specific tier of player. When fans ask why a declining vet or controversial star keeps hanging on while a hungry 22-year-old gets sent home in May, they're bumping up against the WNBA's unwritten roster rules. On paper, the WNBA is the most cutthroat league in North American sports in terms of job security. There were only 12 teams, 11 to 12 active roster spots, and a constant wave of college All-Americans hitting the draft every spring. Players drafted in April can be waived by May, left with relocation costs and nothing guaranteed, while many veterans earn salaries well below the maximum and still face minimal job security. Analysts have described the league's labor market as a dream for owners because salaries are tightly restricted, age limits keep players in college longer, and team control mechanisms squeeze mobility. Beneath that ruthless structure, though, a tiny circle of stars end up enjoying something that looks a lot like tenure because the formal rules and the informal politics both push front offices to protect them at almost any cost. At the center of the formal side is the core designation, the WNBA's version of slapping a franchise tag on your best player. When a team cores an unrestricted free agent, it effectively revokes her freedom to shop herself around the league and gives her current team exclusive negotiating rights. The CBA backs that up with a core qualifying offer that guarantees a one-year supermax level salary if nothing else gets negotiated, which locks in both money and roster presence for that upcoming season. Core players can negotiate different terms or longer deals, but the baseline is simple. If you've been tagged as core, you are, by definition, central to the team's identity, and almost impossible to imagine being casually waived in training camp. Even if trade rumors swirl, as they have around big-name guards like Kelsey Plum in recent seasons, the conversation is about what package you'd need to get back, not whether she might be fighting for the 12th spot. Age rules and the way the pipeline is structured also create a quiet shield around veterans who are already in the club. The WNBA's age restriction means players are typically at least 22 when they enter the league, which gives teams years of free marketing off their NCAA careers and also delays the influx of pros just enough to safeguard many established vets. That limit has been criticized as a mechanism that historically protected older players and made the league even harder to crack for younger stars ready at 19 or 20. With expansion to new franchises like Portland and Toronto adding roster spots, some writers are openly asking whether those veteran-friendly guardrails still make sense when the league is finally growing. For now, though, those rules help entrench the players who have already made it over the wall, especially if they sit at the intersection of experience, leadership, and name recognition. Inside that structure, marketability becomes its own kind of armor. League-wide, only a small number of players pull in significant endorsement money, and their sponsorships often dwarf their WNBA salaries, which makes them more than just another name on a depth chart. When a player moves jerseys, anchors national commercials, or has a shoe that sells out in minutes, she turns into a walking marketing department for her franchise. Cutting a player like that isn't just a basketball decision. It means risking ticket sales, local TV interest, social media engagement, and the brand partnerships that come with having a recognizable face tied to your logo. Even when on-court production dips or efficiency craters, the calculation becomes, can we afford to lose the attention she brings as much as, can we get 2 more points per game from the rookie behind her? That dynamic is turbocharged in a league where the middle class is squeezed and the financial floor for non-stars is low. Many players without big endorsement portfolios have to go overseas in the offseason just to make ends meet, taking on extra mileage and injury risk because their WNBA checks alone aren't enough. For them, a camp cut can mean the difference between a livable year and scrambling for short-term deals abroad. and teams know there's a huge pool of replacement-level talent hungry to jump into that role. In contrast, the star with national sponsorships brings outside money and legitimacy into the building, and losing her can sting owners in ways that don't show up in the salary cap spreadsheet. That's how someone with declining counting stats can still feel untouchable, while a more efficient, cheaper role player never quite escapes the bubble. Veteran status itself carries its own unwritten weight, even as the cap has made some teams wary of older, more expensive players. Players and executives both acknowledge that veterans are the backbone of the league, providing structure in the locker room and polish on the floor that doesn't always translate to basic metrics. But with a hard salary cap that hasn't always kept pace with rising expectations, front offices sometimes face a choice between paying multiple young players or holding on to one pricey vet. That squeeze can push out mid-tier older players who don't have star-level marketability, yet it can also tighten the circle around the true marquee veterans, whose leadership, playoff experience, and brand power make them almost too costly to walk away from. In practice, that means some veterans are more expendable than ever, while a select few are more insulated than they've ever been. Inside that gray area is the unwritten rules really live. No GM will stand at a podium and say, "We kept her because she sells more jerseys than the rookie," but everyone around the league understands those conversations happen behind closed doors. Sponsors want faces they can put on billboards, broadcasters want storylines built around familiar names, and new expansion markets crave stars they can promote on day one. When you layer that on top of core tags, veteran reputations, and the political capital certain players hold in the locker room, you're left with a small group of athletes who can play through slumps, controversies, or even public criticism in ways their teammates simply can't. It's not that they'll never be traded or moved, but the path for them is controlled exits and negotiated breakups, not being told after practice that the team is letting them go. Players feel those imbalances, and they talk about them when the topic of security comes up. In league surveys, WNBA players consistently cite roster stability, travel conditions, and salary structure as major concerns, and those complaints are coming from the majority who live without guarantees, not the stars sitting on supermax or core protected deals. When veterans and union leaders push for changes like a soft cap or expanded rosters, they often frame it as a way to protect older players and open more seats for young talent at the same time. The irony is that until those reforms land, the current system continues to protect the most visible veterans and expose everyone else. That tension feeds the sense among fans that some names are permanent while others are just passing through, even if the box score doesn't always explain why. Expansion to new franchises like Portland and Toronto could start to shake some of these dynamics, but it may also reinforce them in unexpected ways. With protection limits dropping to around 5 or 6 players per team in recent expansion drafts, front offices are being forced to rank their priorities more brutally than ever before, deciding which stars are truly untouchable and which high-end role players they're willing to expose. The deeper, more disruptive draft that executives are expecting is likely to free some quality players from jagloms, yet expansion markets also tend to chase their own stars, seeking recognizable faces they can build a young fan base around immediately. If anything, that could deepen the star system by giving marquee players even more leverage as the league's footprint grows. Once again, the middle of the roster becomes the sacrifice that keeps the very top intact. The result is a WNBA where the phrase roster roulette only really applies to maybe 2/3 of the league. For undrafted players, late first-round picks, and mid-tier vets without a big marketing footprint, every camp training, every injury report, and every expansion draft protection list can alter their career in a 48-hour window. For the handful of players who have been cored, face of the franchise stars in their markets, or national brands in their own right, the game is different. They might argue about contract length, push for trades, or clash with coaches, but the odds of them simply being cut are vanishingly small. Those unwritten roster rules are nowhere in the CBA, yet they're embedded in how teams, sponsors, and the league itself value certain players beyond their PER or true shooting percentage. If you zoom out, the protection some stars enjoy is both a symptom and a driver of where the league is heading. As players push for a bigger share of revenue and more freedom in CBA talks, they're negotiating not just for overall pay, but for a different balance of power between the top of the league and everyone else. Owners, meanwhile, have every incentive to keep using tools like core tags and strict caps that let them lock in their biggest attractions while cycling through cheap labor on the margins. Until that tug-of-war shifts, the WNBA will remain a place where 144 roster spots feel like musical chairs for most and a reserved seat for a very select few. The on-court product might decide who wins in the playoffs, but off the court, marketability, veteran status, and backroom leverage still play a huge role in deciding who never has to fear hearing the words, "We're waiving you."